Welcome, and thank you for tuning in to the Sunday services at Center for Spiritual Living, Denver. We are a loving and prospering community in the heart of Denver and online. We now conduct hybrid services at the historic Grant Avenue Community Center and Sacred Place, located at 216 South Grant Street, Denver, Colorado. All are welcomed here. A place, space, and face of love. We are a spiritual community practicing universal principles that enrich our lives. We are grateful that you have blessed us with your presence. While online, we'd love to know you're watching with us. Feel free to leave a comment and let everyone appreciate you. With everything going on, life can feel overwhelming. CSL Denver wants you to know we are here for you. Please know that our practitioners are available for personal prayer work. Our licensed spiritual practitioners' names and phone numbers are available on our website at csldenver.org. Or if you have a prayer request, feel free to email it to info@csldenver.org. For your convenience, you'll find clickable links in the description of this broadcast. Rev Elzia, along with all our guest speakers, practitioners, service coordinators, and musical inspirations, want you to know how truly grateful we are that you are with us today. Thank you for your continued support and participation in our services, workshops, and events, as well as providing financial contributions to our center. If you're interested in upcoming events and information, we send out weekly newsletters. Sign up by visiting www.csldenver.org. We deliver services in a hybrid format where we meet in person at 216 South Grant Street. We will also continue to live stream all services on Facebook and YouTube every Sunday. Find us on our respective channels as well as on New Thought Media Network. Again, thank you for your precious attention. Now prepare for engaging enlightenment.
There is a garden where dreams come true, a beautiful garden where God's grace blooms. There is a garden where everything grows, a beautiful garden where love is sown. And in this place of light and love, you can have anything that you're dreaming of. There is a garden where dreams come true, a beautiful garden. That garden is you. place of light and love. You can't have anything that you're dreaming of. There is a garden where dreams come true. A beautiful garden. That garden is you. Such a beautiful garden. That garden is you.
I'm Rumi, engineer, practitioner at this beloved place. So let us go into our invocation. If you wish, you can close your eyes. As we go within, we share this sacred space to celebrate the dawning of the vernal equinox, known as Navroz, a new day, and the birth of the Persian New Year. This occasion has been celebrated for almost 4,000 years by Zoroastrians and people of different faiths, when nature showers the bounteous gifts and hails this auspicious day. And so I know that this service is amply blessed, blessing Reverend Elzia, Diego, Robin Hackett, our practitioners, myself included, and all who are here and listening in or worshiping in nature or temples of their choice. For this I pray, may the budding season bring for us soundness of body and mind. May the mellow rays of the sun quicken our hearts. May the vernal beacon lead our souls on the path of the new life that opens with Navroz. With humility of the mind and devotion of heart and prayer of the spirit at our very being, I commend our community and all sentient beings to the unfailing love, care, protection, and guidance of Father, Mother God, now and forever. And so it is. Amen. And the reading today is about authenticity and building and boundaries. Boundaries build bridges. We need to communicate our boundaries. Others cannot read our mind, and it is an assumption that everyone knows this about me. That does not absolve us from the responsibility to communicate them. It is an authentic expression because we are sharing who we are rather than who we are not. It gives others a path to connect with us. Honoring our own boundaries is an act of self-love that cultivates our authenticity. When we say no to one thing, we say yes to something else. By clarifying our limits, we are making space for us to live out loud. And Ernest Holmes, from A New Design for Living, says, we need to know what we are and then just be ourselves without arrogance, without fear, without timidity. Be ourselves in quietness, in confidence, and in peace. And know that we are one with all people. That we will be fulfilling the law that makes for unity among all people. That establishes love, companionship, and human relations that are productive of joy and fulfillment of mutual endeavor. It does not mean that we will have to settle for anything less than harmony, that we believe wrong is right, or that we must come to endure unpleasant situations. It does mean that we are establishing harmony and right relations out of what might appear to be chaos and confusion. And he says also, in this thing called you, the divine pattern would be imperfect without you. Dare to be yourself. Stand in wonder before the majesty and might, the beauty and power of that divine presence which seeks expression through your individual life. And so it is. And now for some music with Robert Hackett.
Good morning, everyone. This is Robin Hackett coming to you from New York City. I hope you all are well. To share some music with you. One heart, one life. We are one family, one earth, one heart, one life. We are one family, one earth, and together we can make a difference in our world. Every creed and color, every boy and girl, all of creation, no separation. We are one, one heart. One heart, one life. We are one family, one earth. One heart, one life. We are one family, one earth. And together we can make a difference in our world. Every creed and color, every boy and girl, all of creation, no separation. We are one, one heart. And even though it seems we are so far apart, and many times we're feeling all alone, the truth of who we are has been here from the start. We are one heart, one heart, one life. We are one family, one earth, one heart, one life. We are one family, one earth, and together we can make a difference in our world. Every creed and color, every boy and girl, all of creation, yes, no separation. We are one, one heart. We are one, one life. We are one, one heart.
Good morning and welcome to CSL Denver. That'll wake you up if you were asleep. Thank you for being here and welcome to CSL Denver, a place, a space, and a face of love. A universal community teaching ancient wisdom and applying these principles to empower our lives and the lives of others. First and foremost, I want to thank everyone who reached out to me this past week or so in the loss of one of my dear friends, someone, excuse me, that I've known for 50 plus years, and it warmed my heart to see all of the condolences and everything. So I want to thank everyone who reached out and did that. And the one thing that I felt during that time was authenticity. Because this month and is a month that we've titled Cultivating Authenticity. Cultivating authenticity. And so today we're going to talk about how authenticity or authentic communication can bridge gaps, whatever the gap may be. And so when we look at this, the first thing that we want to remember is what a bridge is, right? A bridge gets us from one point to the other, but it also is a way of connecting, which is kind of obvious when you get from one point to the other. But just so we state the obvious, because we want it to be clear. But the one thing that we want to remember about authenticity is that it's not about becoming something other than who you already are. It's about letting go of all those things that block us, that withhold our true selves from showing up, that creates these barriers or boundaries, if you will, to establishing ourselves. Now, by nature, we all have boundaries. There's a boundary of how far I can walk before I fall out, right? There's a boundary to how much I cannot eat before I get sick, right? So we're not talking about those boundaries. We're talking about boundaries in terms of making connections with one another throughout the globe. So boundaries are where we end and begin in terms of one another. So communication is key when we do that, right? Nancy Levine says this in her book, Setting Boundaries Will Set You Free. She defines boundaries as a limit that you set to define what you will and will not do, or what you will or will not accept or tolerate from others. If we desire to express ourselves authentically, then it is up to us to become familiar with and clarify the boundaries for ourselves and for others. And another way of saying that, sometimes we say, know the game you're playing. You don't put on a football uniform to go play baseball, right? You don't put on a hockey uniform to go run track. So you begin to know what the boundaries are for the game of life, that you are sent here uniquely to play, because each one of us has our own skills, our own unique way of presenting those skills, because there are a lot of people who have very similar skills. If you look right now, for all the basketball folk, March Madness is going on, and we've seen point guards and centers and all these different positions on the court with very similar skills, but they are displayed differently because they are unique to that individual. And the point guard very seldom tries to go in and dunk the ball. Now, they may go in for a layup, but they're not looking to dunk. So they understand the boundaries of which they're playing in, but they're still communicating their authenticity. And so the good thing about these boundaries, it is a gateway or a pathway to really establishing yourself. Now, some people might say, well, what does that mean? That allows each and every one of us to speak to the voice within. How many times have you tried something because somebody coaxed you to do it? Oh, let's go do this or that or whatever, right? Because it's this, that, or the other. And you're looking at it, a great example was when we had the bungee jumping craze. Now, some of you might not remember that, But it was a thing. It was a thing. Bungee jumping, getting on bridges, and jumping off, right? With a rope or rubber band to your ankle. That was beyond my boundary. I did not even think about doing that. It was fun to watch somebody else, and I can only imagine what they felt. But we have to begin to articulate to say, look, I'll take the camera and I'll take the video while you jump, but I'm not jumping. Right? We have to set our boundaries. And then we begin to build bridges. So my friend, the next time he goes to do something that adventurous, I'm not asking Elzia, because I know I'm going to ask him to be the videographer right up front. But it's that communication that begins to build bridges. So my friend now knows that I'm not jumping, but I can take a mean video. And I know I have to watch myself and set my boundaries with this person because they might do some things that I'm not comfortable doing. So when we can establish that kind of authenticity, we begin to grow together. He understands me. I understand him. I know what positions I can and cannot put him in. And he knows the same for me. And so when we look at the purpose of life is to express ourselves, to allow the God-given light, the energy, the spark that is within us to shine, we begin to say that I am a unique expression of the intellect, of the desires, of the gifts that I bring to the world. And when we can stand in that space, we begin to open up. Now, I'm going to give you a story that gives a great example of what we're talking about. Now, most people know about the prophet Moses, whether you're Christian or not. You've heard the story, you've seen the Ten Commandments on TV and different places. But how many of you remember two things or three things in that story? Matter of fact, I'm sorry. The first one was Moses said he had this conversation with God. But there was a bridge, right, out there that needed to be spanned because Moses said, I need to see you, God. I hear you, but I need to see. I need some authentic verification here. And what did God say? God said, hold your horses, Moses. That was a biblical term. I just want y'all to know, hold your horses. And he told Moses, he says, you do not have the capacity to see me in my fullness. So what did he do? He set the burning bush. He said, look over there at the bush. You can see a semblance of my glory, of my power, of my light. But to try to fulfill the whole thing, your container might not be able to contain it. So that was the first thing, establishing boundaries, authentic communications. There are things that we have to maneuver to get into here. Then the second thing was, after he had realized the power and presence of God and he accepted his mission or his unique gifts of understanding and being a conduit for the divine, what was the next thing he said? Ooh, Lord, you know I stutter. How am I going to deliver the word and I can't get it out? Again, a boundary was set. He understood that he could be the vessel, but he wasn't comfortable in delivering that message. And so what did God say? Oh, that's no problem. You got this brother Aaron, don't you? Don't you got a brother Aaron? Yeah, older brother Aaron. Why don't we get Aaron to be the voice to the people? And so right there was a bridge that was built between God, Moses, Aaron, and the people. Because Aaron became the one who articulated the commands and the wishes and the wisdom of the divine. And so when we look at that, we see an exact example of what it means to have authentic communication that builds bridges, to allow people at their various levels to understand what God is, who they are, what the relationship is. and how we serve when we serve each other. There is this next slide here says, the divine pattern would be imperfect without you. Dare to be yourself. Stand in wonder before the magnificent and might, the beauty and power of the divine presence, which seeks expression through your rather individual life. So Aaron and Moses were following the commandments, if you will, of the Lord and doing it in their own unique way. Aaron didn't tell Moses to get out the way. I can talk to God better than you. And Moses definitely didn't tell him he wanted to speak, right? Because he had already told God, I need a mouthpiece. And so we begin to see in this thing about authentic communication, there's a yielding, there's a humility, there's this idea of not trying to be all things to all people. But to do that, you have to get in touch with yourself. You have to have that conversation with God, just like Moses did. And the key thing on this whole Moses is, you can't be afraid to question God. Moses gives us a prime example to say, God, I'm not quite sure. One of us don't know what we're talking about. Let's just be clear. I don't know who it is. I don't know if it's me or you. But when you're asking me to speak, now we done stepped across the bound. That I can't make that jump. And so that communication becomes open. So we have to be able to question, not in a question of questioning authority, but a question of curiosity. We talked about that last month, but this whole thing of curiosity as a superpower. So we have to be curious, and we have to look at how we are interacting with the divine, with ourselves, and the community. And so this is what Moses did. And so, you know, when God was able to speak to Moses, both Moses and Aaron had to be humble. They both had to accept their roles and allow the universe to be on point. And when they did that, everything worked. And so the next thing we want to know is about this clarity, is that having clarity about the boundaries empower us to know what is ours to do and who we are to be. That fixes it. And so when we're able to do that, you know, one of the popular sayings during the pandemic was, what's mine to do? Or what's ours to do? We have to be clear about that. That takes some time. That takes some soul searching. You know, we talk about in this teaching, we talk about visioning and intention. That's what that means. We have to sit in the silence to understand the communication between us and the divine. That silence acts as a bridge, and it sets a boundary between who we are and what we are supposed to do. And so when we are able to communicate our boundaries and hold others accountable to them, now we are being our true, authentic self. Moses tried to run when God came to him. How did he try to run? I can't speak. I'm a stutterer. God said, no. That's not how this works. There's always a way. There's always a way to bridge difficulties, sadness, misuse, mistrust. All these things can be bridged if we are authentic. If we are authentic. And that takes some time. There's a verse. Before I do that verse, I want to go to this next slide here, which says this: you need not ask what others have done or how they have done it. Be yourself and express life as you find it. Never imitate. Trust the self. Find the self in God and God in the self. Basically, that's saying you got to step into the silence. You have to get to know who you are. There's a verse in the Psalms of David. Now, and if you're familiar with the Psalms, David was authentic, right? And some people might even say David was a little bit of a rascal, right? He was true to himself. But one thing he had a commitment and a conviction to bridge the gap between the divine and himself. And in the 119th Psalm, he gives this about someone who was in distress and looking for deliverance. It says, I have chosen the way of faithfulness. I set your ordinations before me. I cling to your desires, O Lord. Let me not be put to shame. I run the way of your commandments, for you enlarge my understanding. Teach me, O Lord, the way of your statutes, of your laws, and I will observe it till the end. Give me understanding that I may keep your laws and observe in my heart. Lead me in the path of your commandments, for I delight in it. Turn my heart to your decrees and not to selfish gains. God is telling us here through David that you have to commit yourself. You have to follow the universal principles because they hold across all bounds, not just in one arena or one environment, they're all. And when we can do that, we step into this place where we begin to just step right in and say this. You rob no person when you discover your own good. You limit no person when you express a greater degree of livingness. You hinder no person's evolution when you consciously enter into the kingdom of your good and possess it today. Ernest Holmes in this book, this thing called You, and I encourage you, if you don't have that book, I encourage you to get that book. Small book. I don't even think it's 100 pages, barely. But it gives you this ability to look at all the things we talked about this year and really begin to cultivate what we're talking about now, your authenticity, this thing called you, right? Because when we can do that, we are unstoppable. There's no pain, there's no sorrow, there's no mountain. You know, I would sing that song, ain't no mountain high, ain't no valley low, ain't no river wide enough to keep me from getting to the divine or getting the divine to you. But we have to be authentic. We have to be humble. We have to be vulnerable so that we allow the divine to speak to us and build these bridges with authentic communication. So how do we do that? There's three things in this process of becoming your authentic self. The first one is this. Be clear about who you are. Not what your daddy said, not what your mama said, not what your partner said, and sometimes not even what you say. Because I've said some things to myself about myself when I was scared or in judgment or fear. Ooh, it was kind of, not only was it hard and cruel, it was just a lie. You know, on both ends of the stick. Sometimes I made myself bigger and sometimes I made myself smaller. But when I have this authentic communication, bridging gaps between all aspects of life, I can step boldly and say, this is who I am. I set my boundaries. Now, let's just be clear. Boundaries are not things that, some boundaries are permanent and some boundaries are expandable, right? We've all seen lately, I hate this example, but we've seen examples of where the boundaries of rivers have expanded as of the rainfall that we've been having. Now, it will recede, but that's an example of a boundary that has some flexibility, if you will. But on the planet Earth, there's not much boundary between gravity. You get in the wrong relationship with gravity, you're going to need more than a bridge. You need a parachute or something, because that bridge is not going to work. Ask those bungee jumpers, right? They understood that. And so when we understand these boundaries, you have to know who you are. Know who you are. That means some meditation, some journaling, some walks in the park, some going to sit in the woods and just don't take a radio, don't take a phone, just sit there. Watch the birds. Because you begin to get in touch with your true nature when you are in these kinds of environments. The second thing is, which is kind of obvious, you got to know your limits. That's an obvious one. We got to know your limits. How many of us, and I'll be the first one to raise my hand that says, I've got into some situations that I should never have been in. And then when I got myself in them, I wanted to blame everybody else because I was not authentic with me. Had nothing to do with anybody else, although I blamed everybody else, right? So I need to be able to make it possible to do that. I have to cultivate my mindset. There's a mindset of saying, you may hear me use this verse a million times by Kenny Rogers. You got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. You got to know when to walk away and you got to know when to run. Kenny says, you never count your blessings while you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the deal is done. That's what we have to do. We can't get too involved. There was that saying, I'm not doing this for self-gain. So I don't need to try to figure out how my chips looking on the table or anything like that. I need to set the boundaries that this is the game we're playing now. I know who I am and I'm going to play. So we got to know our limits. We have to know our limits. And the last one may be the hardest one. At least it is for me sometime. I ain't going to put this on nobody else. Be courageous. Be courageous. Now, courage takes many forms. Courage may be this idea that no is a complete sentence, all to itself. Yes, sir. But sometimes it takes a lot of courage to say no. Because we've gotten into the habit of not being our authentic self. We're in the habit of pleasing someone else. So we say yes when we're sitting there thinking, I do not want to go take them to get groceries or whatever it is. Say no. You're not a bad person because you said no. You set your boundaries. I may say no today. Tomorrow I may say yes. Because I understand that these boundaries some of them are flexible. But this is what we do when we deal with authentic communication. When we deal with authentic communication. And no requires no extra explanation. If you want to give one, you can, but no is no. That's it. And it's not about being harsh. It's about knowing who you are and establishing real communication. Because what has happened? How many times have you said yes begrudgingly and you set a precedent? And then the next thing you know, that thing recurs over and over again. And each time you get more resentful. You get more angry. You beat yourself up more. Why am I doing this? Because I know I don't, right? And so we got to be courageous. And so when we can set vision and intention and understand who we are and what's ours to do, and when we can be courageous enough to make that declaration, we're standing on holy ground. We're standing on holy ground because I can be open to the divine and be clear to deliver the message, the gift, the talent to the world. And so as we look at this authentic way of communicating with God, with ourselves, and with others, we begin to build bridges that will last forever. And so when we don't communicate our boundaries and compromise our comfort in order to please someone else or give to something we don't want, it is our authentic self that is disrespected. It's our authentic self that is disrespected. So honoring our boundaries is an act of self-love. It's an act of taking care of ourselves. And this last slide here, I think, puts the cake on it. When kindness comes at the expense of truth, it is not a kindness worth having. Translate that to another way. If kindness is at the expense of myself, then that kindness is not worth having. That's when you know your boundaries, and that's when you can communicate. And so when we take that and we move forward with our call to actions for the week, which, that's a given by now. We have these call to actions because we want to bring these things in our lives. We want to be able to practice them and use them so that we can not only live better lives, but be examples for others to live their authentic life. And so here are the call to actions. First, examine where in your life you are not communicating your truths. You don't have to tell nobody, but you need to tell yourself so you know when you're not being in tune. Second thing is, ask yourself, where do you need an Aaron in your life? That means, where do you need help? Where do you need some assistance? You don't have to do it alone. So find that place out and get the help. Then last thing is, practice saying no. Just get in front of the mirror. No, 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 no. So you get used to hearing the words. You understand what your face looked like. So that when you say it, you could stand in power and say no. Now, y'all may think that's a silly practice, but I think it's I definitely need to learn that practice. So I'm going to be saying no in the mirror a lot this week. But it's something that we have to get comfortable with. It's something that we have to be comfortable in our body. So these are the call to actions. And so if we can do these things and step forward with this week's affirmation, I think we will be able to really move in a way that speaks to who we really are. Sharing my boundaries builds bridges to authentic connection with others. And when we can do that, then we can be united. We can be one family. We can be exactly who God created us to be. And so with that, let's go into prayer. So let's just take a deep breath and take all that in. And allowing this moment called now to make us aware of who we are. To make us aware that we each have our gifts and boundaries that have to be respected. That God uses to the glory and greatness of all things. And so when we're able to do that, we allow ourselves to be open to a greater understanding, to a greater wisdom, to a greater courage to express God-given talents that we have without question. And because I know this to be true, not only for myself, but for everyone in the congregation today and everyone that's online, I know this is something that fortifies us, that enlivens us, that enriches our lives so that we can become and be the ones that we're waiting for. And so with that, I declare and know right here, right now, that each one of us are stepping into our authentic power. We're stepping into a place where we can say yes to some things and no to other things. Because we understand who and what we are and what God is, and we have no confusion in the matter. And I do that because I can release doubt, I can release judgment, I can release guilt and fear, and all those things that prevent me from standing in a place where I'd rather be light than to be who God has created me to be. And so when we do that, we open our hearts, our minds, our lives to be expressions of God itself. And so it is for that reason that I give thanks. For the ability to come forth and express the wisdom and teachings of the divine that we all need for security and joy and happiness and all the things that make up a complete life. And so it is in that understanding, it is in that truth that I release these words, knowing that there is no place where God is not, and that this moment is whole, full, and complete. And with that, I release, I let go, and I know that it is absolutely so. And so it is. Amen. And so I want to thank you again for being here today. I hope everyone is in the back of their minds thinking about, who am I authentically? Asking ourselves that so we can begin to present ourselves authentically and present our gifts. And so it is now that offertory time where we are so grateful and blessed for your gifts, and for whether they're in time, talent, or treasures. Especially now as we begin to meet every week in person and continue to stream online so we can build this community. And we're looking for all the authentic people to come and join us. We got some really good plans to go out and allow others to see what it means to be a light of the divine. And so we want your authentic self here so we can figure out where you plug in. And so you can see running across the bottom of the screen the many different ways that you can give by going to the website, pushing the donate button, using the text to give number 616-441-0689 and type give and the amount, and it'll give you the instructions from there. But however you give, please continue to do so. And if it feels comfortable, if you repeat our affirmation of offering, this perfect gift is spirit and form, circulating and blessing all that it touches. Freely I give and joyously I receive, and so it is. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Elzia. 2-year-olds know how to say no.
Yes.
Yes. I remember those days. So as we usually mention, if you would like to hear some good news of the world to affirm the good in the world, we have a link on our Facebook page called And Now the Good News. This program is put together by New Thought Media Network and airs on Fridays at 5 p.m. Mountain Time, or you can watch these anytime during the week. You can just go to our Center for Spiritual Living Denver Facebook page and click on any of the links that say And Now the Good News. And also know that New Thought Media Network also has over 40 hours of weekly broadcast programs, including prayer time at 8:15 a.m. and p.m. That's always good to just kind of get centered, either to start or end your day. It's just a nice way to and it's only about 15 minutes long, isn't it? Yeah. And they've got also, they've added prayer time in Spanish, as well as 40 Days to Love in both Spanish and English. We invite you to go to www.ntmedia.org and check out what they have. There's something for everyone. And we know that as we move through this year and all the experiences that it holds, that the divine beloved is guiding and loving each and every one of us. So we so look forward to meeting in person every Sunday and to having you join us either online or here. And here is lots of fun. And there's coffee and tea and cookies and fellowship. So let's close out with Chris Chickering singing a prayer for who we really are. So please join us for fellowship after. Thank you.
This is a prayer for the love within us. This is a prayer to release our hearts. This is a prayer that we carry with us. This is a prayer for who we really are. We are light, we are sunshine, we are what we believe. We are hope, we are promise of everything that's yet to be. We are bliss, we are laughter, we are flowers in the spring. We are life, ever flowing, and these are the words that we will sing. This is a prayer for the love within us. This is a prayer to release our hearts. This is a prayer that we carry with us. This is a prayer for who we really are. We are strong, we are fearless, we find the comfort in our souls. We are real, we are open to the destiny that's ours to hold. This is a prayer for the love within us. This is a prayer to release our hearts. This is a prayer that we carry with us. This is a prayer for who we really are. We are here, we are present in every moment that we breathe. We are peace, we are freedom, and this is a song for you and me. Yeah, this is a prayer for the love within us. This is a prayer to release our hearts. This is a prayer that we carry with us. This is a prayer for who we really. This is a prayer for the love within us. This is a prayer to release our hearts. This is a prayer that we carry with us. This is a prayer